Welcome to Decades of Horror, the 1970s.
Megalon! Megalon! Wake up, Megalon! Come on! Rise up now to the Earth's surface. Destroy the Earth. Destroy our enemies. Rise up! Go on! Megalon!
This is episode 199, recorded September 30th, 2023.
Gruesome Magazine.
Well, that was excellent. My name is Jeff Mohr, and I am your host for this podcast about horror films released between 1970s and 1979. Each episode, my co-hosts and I will tackle another classic or not so classic film from this wondrous, groovy, gory, and influential decade. Boy, this has been a troubled episode. So if you're here to listen to a podcast on black magic, that will be somewhere down the line, because that didn't happen for a myriad of problems. We had a hard time getting everybody together. We had some technical issues, and finally, I got a couple of ringers in that know a heck of a lot more about the movie we're going to do. And in fact, I'm really excited about this. But Doc couldn't be here tonight. Chad couldn't be here tonight either. So we are forging ahead, though. Joining me tonight is Bill Mulligan, writer, director, and all-around nice guy and published author, Rom.
Ooh, glad to be here.
So is Crow in there anywhere? Are there crows in that book?
Oh, ravens for sure. Ravens,
Okay.
Crows. I can't tell the difference. When they're pecking your eyes out, doesn't really matter.
Well, you've been posting pictures of ravens for like a year, so I figured
Yeah.
And I haven't read it. I expose myself here.
That's okay.
But I will.
We all got lives.
Also with us is Dirk Rogers, special effects guy with KMB Graphics, and Dirk's been on a couple of classic era podcasts, and we had him on the 70s once before, but
3 on a meat hook.
he joined us for 3 on the meat hook, so we figured we owed him one to pick his own movie. So today is his pick. So Dirk, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm absolutely great. Having a good time.
Excellent.
Happy to be alive. Happy to be hanging out with friends. And
well, I saw you doing the supporting the
SAG
strike.
after strike.
Yeah, with the suit acting folks.
I had a friend that does puppeteer work and suit acting. He told me that a bunch of us were going to get together and walk the line in front of Paramount. So I would say probably about 50 or 60 puppeteers showed up with their puppets, and then 4 or 5 of us showed up in full costume. And we walked the line and got people honking, and it was a very colorful line. A lot of fake fur flowing, but
I saw that. It looked like fun.
It was a lot of fun.
So, are you guys
Good
excited
energy.
about? Is the Writers Guild?
I'm excited about it because the producers can now start. Now that the writers have signed, they can start addressing the issues that are with SAG-AFTRA, and hopefully get everyone back to work. At least on the major. Some of the smaller AMC, A24, they've already signed interim agreements, so they're getting back to work right now. But that's not enough to employ everybody. So hopefully, when I was on the line a week or two ago, they were saying that they thought it was going to go until early next year, but now that the WGA is signed or has come to an agreement,
yeah.
I'm really hopeful that we're going to see the end of the strike within the next month or two.
And could you introduce us to your friend over your right shoulder there?
That is the Flying Eye from Big Trouble in Little China. It's one of the 2 skins. I used to work for Screaming Mad George in the late 90s, early 2000s, and when he moved back to Japan and retired, he called me up and said, "Do you want it?" And this was right before there was an eBay, so I grabbed it, and I love it. I love it.
Say hello to my little friend.
Yes. Whatever he sees, Lopan sees.
Uh-oh.
Now I'm a little worried. Also with us is Bryan Clark, who has joined the Classic Era one time and introduced us to yokai monsters,
Indeed.
the Spook Warfare film, and turned us all into a bunch of nuts. We all went out and bought yokai monsters and some other Japanese stuff. So, Bryan, how you doing? And what do you got
Great.
going on now?
Happy to be back. I've put a couple of books out this year. I've got a collection of short stories out called Putting the Ground to Sleep and Other Weird Tales. And just earlier this week, I released a novelization of The Beast from Haunted Cave.
Cool.
And I'm still working for Scream Magazine here and there. Just the last issue, I had a couple of pieces on The Mummy's Tomb and Life Force.
Nice.
And I've been doing a little bit of voiceover work for some friends' bands, which is, voiceover is something I always wanted to do. So I'm really excited to.
You got the voice.
That.
You might have the,
Thank you.
First guy on here with a lower voice than mine. So. and a better face too. So
that's debatable, but
Bryan also used to be on Attack of the Killer podcast that originated. Did that originate in Ottumwa or Oskaloosa or
Ottumwa? Yeah,
Oaktowns, Ottumwa. Anyway, that's a place in Iowa for those of you out there.
My wife used to live there.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Learn something every day. So we let Dirk pick today's film. But first, almost forgot, we do partner with Play Now Media, the streaming service, and we are on several of their apps, different channels. Decades of Horror of the 70s is on the Wicked Horror TV channel, and where you can get movies like Beyond the Darkness from Joe D'Amato.
Oh, boy.
Or Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things from Bob Clark.
Yeah.
Also did Black Christmas, Porky's, and Christmas Story.
And Death Dream.
And Crucible. Oh, and Death Dream, yeah. Crucible of Horror with Michael Goff. So, and that's just something I just pulled off the 70s list. Well, lots of good stuff that you may or may not be able to find elsewhere. So check it out. I believe it's $7 a month or $50 a year. Or there's a variety of stuff you can see without actually signing up, but then you'll get ads. But there's also premium content that you wouldn't be able to access. So back to the movie again. Our movie today is, as picked by Dirk, Godzilla versus Megalon, 1973. Okay. I'm going to ask Dirk or Bryan, I don't care which, to read these names, please. And when you get down to production company, I'll
So it's directed by Jun Fukuda. It was written by, the screenplay was finished by Jun Fukuda. The treatment was done by Shinichi Sekizawa, who was one of Toho's two main writers of science fiction in the Showa era. It stars Katsuhiko Sasaki, Hiroyuki Kawase, Yutaka Hayashi, Kotaro Tomita, and Ulf Otsuki.
Production company is Toho. I could handle that one. Release date in Japan, March 17th, 1973, and sometime in April of 1976 in the U.S. Estimated budget, $760,000, and that's according to IMDb. Domestic box office, meaning North America, was $1.8 million. It said 980,000 admissions in Japan. That was also buried somewhere in IMDb or Box Office Mojo. I forget which one. The synopsis, and I made this one rather long because it's kind of complicated. An inventor creates a humanoid robot, which they call Jet Jaguar, that is seized by the undersea nation of Seatopia and used as a guide for Megalon and Gigan to destroy the above-ground dwellers as vengeance for the nuclear tests that have devastated their society. In an attempt to stop them, a now independently thinking Jet Jaguar brings Godzilla into the fight. That may be the truest synopsis we've ever had. And that pictured there alongside that info is Jet Jaguar.
Yep.
Yay.
Quite a colorful character.
Always smiling.
Always.
or Larry, depends on how you look at it. But, all right, on this podcast, we start off with a few details, which we just did, then first impressions, and then some taglines, and then we'll kind of take off down the road to whatever kind of trips our trigger, hopefully related to the movie, right? And I am the least knowledgeable person about Toho and Kaiju and Japanese movies, so if you catch me talking too much, just tell me to shut up, and we can listen to these guys. So this was Dirk's pick, right? So we'll let Dirk go first. So do you remember when you first saw this, Dirk? And what were your impressions?
I would have seen this probably on TV in the late 70s. I don't remember exactly when. My first impression was that I was a fan of Ultraman, and it's basically like an Ultraman episode. It's very kiddie-like. It's very colorful. I would call it a classic because it's part of the Showa, the original series. And even though it's kind of singled out as being one of the worst of the originals, I myself love it. I think Godzilla, with the exception of the first one and maybe a bit of the second one, Godzilla Raids Again, he's still pretty serious in that. But really, it's only the first film that he is a force of nature and just a bastard. And this is kind of the end of that. And he's reduced to being, he does the Muhammad Ali, and he flies on his tail and he communicates with the robot with sign language. And I liked it. I had, it's not one of my, I don't want to say it's not one of my favorites, because I love everything except the 98 version. I'm a pretty big Godzilla fiend, but it wouldn't be one of the first ones that I would put on. But I would definitely put it on to just have in the background, because again, it's so colorful. It's very action orientated. So I love it. I would consider it a classic.
Wow.
Would you, besides 98, is there any Godzilla movie you wouldn't hold that sign up for?
The only other film that I was not a fan of when it came out was one of the ones in the 2000s, Godzilla vs. Megaguirus. Oh. And I didn't like the way it was photographed. Now, I did like the first half of it when Megaguirus was attacking people and before the CG and all that. But that was really the only other Godzilla film that I had a kind of a visceral reaction. Out of the original Showa, I would say... not Son of Godzilla on Monster Island with the kid, where it's all a dream, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe
isn't that Godzilla's Revenge or something?
Godzilla's Revenge. I believe that's it.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I would say, much like this film, there's a lot of stock footage, so that would probably be that would probably be the one out of all the original Showa series that I would watch the least, would be Godzilla's Revenge.
Okay.
Right.
But even that one, I'll still put it on.
All right. Well, let's appreciate that, Dirk, and
sure.
I'm glad you picked this movie. I'll say a little more about that later. Next up, we'll have our other guest, Bryan. Do you remember when you first saw this, and what your impressions are of it now?
I was 7, 8 years old. My mom would occasionally bring home a VHS tape for just to here's a movie I found in the store. Like, the kind of thing you'd find in the checkout lane at the grocery store type of deal. Mm-hmm. And I very distinctly remember my first time watching it. She brought it home. Here's a Godzilla movie. I lose my mind. I'm so excited. Take a while for Godzilla to show up in this one.
It does.
More so than a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we're supposed to go out for dinner with some friends of the family that night. And so just at the point where Jet Jaguar goes to Mohr Island to get Godzilla, my parents call, "Hey, it's time to go. Get your shoes on." So was the whole meal was just squirming in my seat, anxiously waiting. Like, couldn't wait for because it didn't shut up. Finish watching the movie, find out what happened. But yeah, so I loved it the first time I saw it. And decreased some in estimation. Like Dirk was saying, it's not going to be it probably isn't a lot of people's top 5 favorites for several reasons, but it's definitely not mine. It's a lot of fun and I still enjoy watching it. So.
Okay. Well, let's see what Bill's got to say. So, thanks, Bryan.
Right now, and now Jerry Chandler is somewhere typing furiously. He and I have gone back and forth on this forever. It's one of his favorites, and it's one of my least favorites. Godzilla's Revenge is my least favorite Godzilla movie, and I even love like Son of Godzilla, which most people don't like. But boy, this one just didn't do it because it's one of the last ones I saw. I managed to see all the really good Godzilla movies first, and then I saw the weaker ones later. And by that point, I was already in love, so it didn't really matter. I don't know that that's when I first saw this, but the problem with this movie, one of the problems, and this isn't the movie's fault, but it's the one that probably more people have seen than any other Godzilla movie because it just came out at the right time. Mm-hmm. That poster put a lot of people in the theaters. It did get ads on TV, which a lot of them did, and then they showed it on prime time television with John Belushi, who was at his hottest, dressed up in a Godzilla costume, being the host. They cut it down to like 45 minutes. I mean, it was short. All that footage, unfortunately, is lost. Nobody can find the John Belushi wraparound. It was before, VCRs took over. And so, it didn't get great ratings, but it was on primetime television. People saw it and they were like, oh, so that's what a Godzilla movie is. And I'm like, no, it's totally not. But it's the one that people associate. It's like, how we had to fight. Everybody assumed when Tim Burton's Batman came out, they're like, oh, Batman, zap, pow. And you're like, no, shut up. It's from 1966. That's not Batman. It's just a Batman. This is a kind of Godzilla movie. It's when things got very silly and cartoony and very much for kids. Godzilla had basically morphed into Gamera by this point. Gamera had morphed into just complete nonsense. The budget was small. The special effects were fine, but they were from earlier movies. And it's like the way they made Megalon's electric zap look just like Ghidorah's. Yeah, you're not fooling me. Come on, you just want to use some old footage of Ghidorah wrecking things. So it's not my favorite. It's a very cute Godzilla costume. And I do like, if I had to have a pet Godzilla, this is the one I'd want. He looks like a puppy dog. He loves humanity. If he steps on you, it's an accident. It's he shakes your hand. It's got that wonderful scene where he flies on his tail. Okay, there's parts of it I like, but here's the thing. They claim that this was not what everyone thinks it was. It was a Jet Jaguar movie, and they realized at the last minute, oh my God, no one's going to go see this. Let's put Godzilla in it. They say that's not true. Maybe it's not true, but it sure feels like it's true because it takes forever to get Godzilla into this movie. It's just Jet Jaguar. And I'm sorry, not a huge Jet Jaguar fan. And the fact that we haven't seen him since, although I guess he's in the animated one now, kind of bears this out. Japan's got lots of robots that don't all look like Jack Nicholson. There was no reason. This was not going to take off. There's no reason. It doesn't make a lick of sense. He suddenly realizes, oh, I could make myself grow big. Wow. And the inventor's just like, I guess he programmed himself to grow big. Oh, it's that easy? Wow. Okay. That would be my go-to move. If I could do that. They always do this with Power Rangers and everything. The putties show up, they fight the putties, and then they send the monster down, which would have been my first go-to move if I was a villain. And then they're fighting the monster, and the monster's kind of getting his butt kicked. So the monster grows to giant monster, which again would have been my first move. And then the Power Rangers turn into a giant robot, and they kill the monster. Like, listen, as soon as the putties show up, become your giant self, wipe them out, end of the show. Okay, be a 5-minute show every episode. But yeah, I don't know. I can suspend a lot of disbelief. I really can. I believe a giant moth can fight Godzilla, and I believe that Godzilla is plausible. I swallow a lot of unlikely stuff in my love for these movies. But yeah, this one kind of pushed it. And
Yeah. Bill, that quote you were looking for was, I can't believe it. He decided he had to fight Megalon until Godzilla got here. His determination made him grow that big.
Oh, wow. Was that all it takes?
He was determined. All right. So I'm the kaiju. I don't know if the newcomer. I knew these movies were around when I was growing up, but I was more into the science fiction classics of the 50s and 60s. And the horror. So it's fun for me to start picking these up, and I haven't. I should count how many I've done. I haven't seen very many that we haven't actually done a podcast on. It's usually something related to that, and sometimes I'll watch another one. Like I watched Godzilla versus Gigan because they talked about how many scenes in that are used in this one, or they reused the footage, so I kind of wanted to know about that. But it's funny to hear you say it's one of the least liked ones, because I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I just had a big grin on my face because it was just silly. Number one, the heads on Easter Island are 3 million years old.
Well, there you go.
It's weird because there's sometimes where they try to make it seem actually scientific, in that we're having nuclear tests, explosions, right? And they cause problems, and there's a little bit of environmental stuff going on. But then this island that sunk 3 million years ago, so it was people before, I guess it's sort of the Atlantis generation or something, right?
Yes.
These
Yeah.
advanced civilizations. But so the Easter Island heads were 3 million years old, and that's where I just was having fun. I love that little kid. Now, I watched it with the Japanese and subtitles, and his voice was fine, and I thought he was actually that they did an impressive job of incorporating a kid as part of the plot without making it seem too cheesy, is what I felt like.
They fixed that in the dubbing.
That could be. But we all remember the dubbing of the kid in which one of those Fulci movies is it?
Right.
House by the Cemetery.
Yeah.
Torture.
But anyway, probably not the right one. It's probably the third. But anyway, Bob. I do remember that. His name was Bob. So yeah, I enjoyed the kid. I enjoyed the car chases. Oh my God, what a riot. And the cars they were using. I'm like going, oh my God.
Yeah.
My best friend's wife had that car, and my old girlfriend had that little Fiat,
It's like the French Connection with Hot Wheels.
Yeah. Driving down the stairs and then driving over almost a cliff, like a 70-degree incline. So I just had a riot. I thought Megalon was hilarious. The way he was always slapping the different stuff he did with whatever those things were. I just thought that was great. And how but it's kind of like Godzilla, because I'm always wondering, and maybe you guys could tell me this later on, but he'll get the crap beat out of him before he'll actually go and use his atomic breath, or whatever that is. And then the same with Megalon. Megalon's like doing this big hop thing, and I'm like, didn't he fly here?
Yeah.
Why didn't he just fly? And then he flies in circles around Jet Jaguar until he gets dizzy and falls down. I love it. Yeah. The robot gets dizzy.
Well, but it's like these fights are very much like a professional wrestling match.
They are.
Where every wrestler has that finishing move. If he slaps it on, it's over. And you're like, well, why don't you just do that? Just hop as soon as the bell rings, put on the DDT and end the fight right there. But where's the fun in that?
Yeah, so I think the first Godzilla is like a landmark movie.
Agreed.
Of horror and science fiction. Rodan, not as much, but it's kind of interesting. And I think we did War of the Gargantuans on Classic Era. I can't remember what other ones we've done. I don't think we did Mothra yet. but a bunch of them on 70s. You know, we did the 2 Mecha Godzilla ones.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you did some of the other ones before I joined. I think Doc and Santo did. So anyway, I'm gradually picking up, and I'm keeping up on the new ones. All these new, you know, the Monster Island ones that are part of the thing. I've been taking my grandson to, so that's been fun. But for some reason, I like this one. You know, when I first saw the Goofy ones, I was disappointed because I liked the original one so well, and it was so serious that when they kind of turned him into a, like you said, like a professional wrestling almost doing things. But now I'm kind of loving it. I mean, that's another thing. Megalon, when he first shows up, he comes and lands, and he just sort of jumps up and down and stops the ground and makes a big cloud of dust. I mean, what was that? I didn't know what that was about. I dug it, but
I feel like there was supposed to be a city there or something that he was stomping on, but they just didn't have the time to put it. I don't know. So anyway, you guys, I'm going to try to stay shut up now because I just got a big kick out of all their different things, and I didn't know. A lot of these guys, I don't know who they are until I watch these movies. I didn't know Gigan was until I watched Godzilla versus Gigan. Another strange creature with, I don't know. Yeah. If they need a space monster, it's either Gigan or Ghidorah, and Ghidorah's got 3 heads, so it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So Bryan and Dirk, just jump in whenever. You got something you want to say? Don't. Anything I said made you go, Jesus Christ, Jeff? You don't know anything.
No,
you idiot.
Not at all. I think there's validity in everything you're saying. Again, it really is a reflection of its time. It was trying to capitalize on the popularity of Ultraman and all of the, you know, giant robot and all those. So it really is. It's just a totally different flavor of a Godzilla film. But I'd say for me that once you throw all of the all the expectation that all the other movies have put on, I think it's just a lot of fun. It's just a hoot, you know. It's not to be taken too seriously. He's jumping on and flying on his tail. And yeah, Jet Jaguar programming himself to get big. There is one thing that
become autonomous too.
Absolutely, and now he's done. So, you know, and the only difference in being able to communicate is the necklace. He just has to talk into it. I mean, he couldn't just talk to him straight. He has to talk into the necklace,
which isn't mentioned at all until they need it.
Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah, I invented this.
By the way, yeah, I don't know. There's just something almost like Willy Wonka about it. It's just it's colorful. It's fun. There's this underlying current of violence. I mean, the kid gets the shit kicked out of him twice. I mean, when they come in there, I mean, they literally boot him. And then, you know, when the container with them in it, you know, sliding down and Megalon hits it, it flips up. I mean, most people would just be dead, but they fall out and you know, they're okay.
Well, when they kidnap the kid and throw him in the back of that car.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and you see him like beating him,
slamming around. His arms and legs are flying.
Yeah, which is kind of indicative of the Ultraman series as well. I mean, as kiddie as it was, I mean, there was scenes of, you know, especially in like Ultra 7, you know, these like cutting heads and arms and legs off and you know, and everyone's getting
Ultraman
shot.
Serial killers. They're absolute serial killers. They're psychotic.
Yeah, they are. And never looking back. I mean, there's a motorcycle driving at their car and they just start shooting it, you know, and then the guy crashes and they don't slow down. They don't turn. They just keep going. And a lot of that, for me, that same vibe is embedded in this film, and I love it. It's I understand Bill's hesitation of saying that it is a classic, but it's a classic in a different way. I mean, all Godzilla films are wonderful, with the exception of the '98, and this is just a different flavor of Godzilla. It might be something that you would show instead of showing the original Gojira to a 5-year-old, you could show them this film and they would become endeared to it. So I would call it maybe gateway kaiju.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
fair.
the other thing is when the two truck drivers who are kind of the comic relief, just with their facial expressions, but they kick that guy out of the truck. He goes flopping down that rock.
Love that. The dummy,
Yeah.
like,
Great.
woo! Like, oh. And he doesn't get up. I mean, he's dead.
Oh, no.
It was amazing.
Now, so much of what I dislike about this film was from watching the dub version, because you just can't. The dubbing of that child is so awful. It's so awful. It's clearly, it seems clear to me, it's an adult woman pretending to be a child, and just has the most annoying voice. If I were married to her, I would drink poison, anything to make the sound go away. It's terrible, and that just, you start blaming the kid. Why do you sound like that? Shut up! Someone kidnap him. You're rooting for the kidnappers, and that's totally not fair, because the kid's actually, like you say, watching it in Japanese dubbed, which is the way I prefer to watch all foreign films.
Agreed.
But that's not what we had back then. This sounds like it was dubbed by 3 people.
Well, that's possible. And by the way, the Fulci film is The House by the Cemetery.
Okay, yeah.
With Bob, commonly called the most annoying child in film history.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah. Well, you can't call the one in what's the one we did where it's actually a 27-year-old guy. And
right. It was
he's breastfeeding.
Burial
Ground.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah.
It's a guy named Peter Bark.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, classic.
Yeah. Sure.
So I just enjoyed all that stuff. I mean, and the other thing I like about them, any foreign films that we do, I like, because I feel like I'm getting a taste of their culture, but I might be getting a taste of what they think Americans are going to like too, so that it'll sell in America. So one of the things I liked a lot was the cars. That one car they were driving to begin with, that looked like kind of a sports car. Yeah,
the Levi's sticker on the side.
It actually, but it actually on the little window deflector on the side, it had a Wings and Wheel logo for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Oh wow!
Stuck right on the side of that thing in center picture in that one shot while they're driving. Then I noticed when they were at the very beginning, when that kid's driving that most ridiculous looking toy thing,
motorcycle
rider.
Yeah.
What's that?
The baby rider.
Yeah.
That thing.
Yeah.
What that was.
They're sitting up on the grassy knoll, drinking Coke and Fanta. And maybe Coke and Fanta was popular in Japan too, but I just thought, well, there's a couple of things that American audiences will recognize. And
I don't know what I was going to. Were they making it for the American audience? I mean, one of the things, and this is my own thing, I take Godzilla seriously. The Japanese have not always treated it with the level of seriousness that I seem to bring to it. And they're the ones who create it, because even in the 2000s, when they were back to making serious Godzilla movies, they were often pairing them with like Hamtaro. But, it would be a double feature with a thing for infant children. And there's
that
Godzilla.
Was what was selling the tickets.
Yeah.
These were tanking.
Weird.
And so racing was hugely popular in Japan at the time. First Japanese had been held in 1963, just 10 years before this movie. And there were a lot of shows, Kamen Rider, characters.
Oh, yeah.
Racer, Speed Racer was a huge thing at the time. So that was not so much all to American, because racing was so popular in Japan at the time. It would not close roadways for Japanese film crews. So it was hard to get car chase scenes, Phil, which is why they're like running downstairs and driving around rock quarries and stuff, because they just couldn't do it on a highway or something, because they probably all would have died. But yeah, the kiddification of it at the point this came out, and for several days before it, they had been making these not to be released on their own anymore, but for something called the Champion Matsuri festivals, which were set during the holiday breaks from school. So the kids would have something to do to get out of their parents' hair. And it was a 3 or 4 hour block of where they'd have a feature film, or maybe 2 if they were short enough, a bunch of cartoons, an episode of a TV show like Ultraman or Kamen Rider or something like that. And because they were now, so, you know, you'd still pay the one ticket to get into this thing, but that ticket sale was now being split between the movie and the TV show. And so the money was going in many different directions. And so Toho was cinching the budgets down on these things in order to still be able to turn a profit. And you're talking about the stock footage in this one. They actually wrote the script around the stock footage, as opposed to writing the script and then going, okay, let's find some stock footage that we can stick in. Yeah. So, I mean, the script was finished the day of shooting. Like, they had no schedule to get this done at all.
Well, so that little dune buggy thing was a car called a Ruska Classica that were made in the Netherlands with fiberglass bodies put on Volkswagen chassis.
Wow.
Huh.
I don't know, but I noticed there was car racing implied all the way through. Like when they went inside the scientist lab or the inventor's lab, there was pictures of race cars on those cubes hanging down, which were kind of cool, but kind of weird too, you know.
Futuristic.
But then they use it in the fight scene, isn't it? Is it the kid that's hanging on the
swings
cube
on
and
it.
Yeah,
swinging and
hits the guy.
I'm like, this is great.
The set design is pretty interesting in this film. Besides that guy's house, which is kind of cool and kind of crazy. Seatopia looks like it was shot inside a casino.
Well, and that was so much of the movie was shot on in that Seatopia thing, like one of the few sets that they had for the movie, and it's probably the most elaborate, and they barely get. And when you do see it, you're distracted by Robert Dunham's chest hair.
Oh yeah. Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Well, I dug the. I wish Chad would have been on here because I wanted to see if he followed the. They had a shortened version of a big production number with those women in the clear plastic gowns and the weird cone. I don't know what those were supposed to be, heads, but anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. Whenever you have an exotic culture, undersea culture or outer space culture, whatever, they're always big on dancing girls. You know, the leader comes out, but before he does anything, summons the monster, declares war. A bunch of priestesses come out and do a little dance, and it's like, why did we lose that? Maybe things would be going better if we brought back some of those old traditions. Maybe Congress could get their act together and pass budgets if at first a bunch of showgirls came out and just did a little dance, everybody loosened up, had a few drinks.
I think Congress should definitely show up in some of those ceremonial robes.
Don't give them any ideas.
I don't want to see any congressperson show up in a clear plastic.
No.
Oh, I definitely do.
So I can't remember if I've told this before where Bill could hear it, but my dad used to always tell this story about this kind of crazy guy that, sort of the town goofball from his little eastern Iowa town. And one day they saw him walking down the street in a pair of clear plastic pajamas. And they went up to him and said, "Hey, I always thought you were crazy, but now I can see your nuts."
Gotta put more light on.
Dad, I got to thank you, Dad, because that came to mind when I saw that scene.
And now he's a congressman.
Yeah.
You're saying before how you felt it wasn't always taken seriously as evidenced by this movie, and that the first movie is so dire and serious. Now, of course, everyone knows by now, first movie is the allegory against nuclear war. It's a very pacifistic film. And this, the Seatopians are attacking the surface world with Megalon because they're sick of people setting off nuclear bombs and polluting their ocean water. So they're the good guys. Godzilla is fighting in favor of nuclear weapons.
Well,
so he's kind of an
okay. In fairness, though, maybe I'm just tossing this out there. maybe if they let us know that they even existed in the first place, we'd do our bomb testing somewhere else. I mean, you're throwing your trash in what you think is a landfill, and then it turns out, oh no, there's someone who has a hut in the middle of it. Sure, he's mad, but just tell me to stop, and I'll toss it somewhere else. I don't think your go-to first move in negotiation is to send your giant monster cockroach god to lay waste to everything. But that seems to be a common theme, though, of Atlantean undersea cultures that are ticked off because of us, dropping bombs and everything. I mean, boy, that is.
I mean, we kind of deserve it. We suck.
Well, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Well, which leads me to what I thought was kind of impressive too, was that whole whirlpool thing. I thought was, the Japan. I'm assuming that was a miniature of some kind, but that was impressive. I didn't go, well, that's a stupid looking miniature. I went, wow, that's a big friggin' whirlpool.
They're great at miniatures. They're fantastic at miniatures. If they'd had a little more time, maybe Megalon would have been stomping on one. But apparently, all he's doing is
the only thing that made me think it was miniatures was the tiny little
thing that the kid was on. Roku.
Yeah.
But
the one scene of Megalon actually doing some destruction, the dam destruction, is pretty good.
Yeah,
agreed. Yeah,
it's very well done, and it wasn't stock footage. So, but that's
no. I don't know how they put that in there. I forget who I was talking to. It was a special effects person, but they were talking about how hard it is to do water in miniatures, and that's what impressed me about that dam thing, because they had that muddy water splashing all over it. It just looks right to me.
Right.
It doesn't look like it's.
Yeah, water and fire are tough to do in miniatures because everyone knows what they should look like, and they don't look right when they're too small.
Well, and the fire in this too, towards the end, when they put the ring of fire around Jet Jaguar Godzilla, that fire was great. I mean, that just looked hotter than hell.
I'll bet the stunt actors didn't think it was so great. They got set on fire a lot. They're wearing big rubber costumes that are already pretty burny, and then they're throwing all this around. And when they interview some of them, they talk about, I was Rodan strung up on wires, and then it's on fire. Okay, that's got to be bad.
So, I interrupt you, Brian. What were you going to say?
Nakajima passed out in the suit all the time. But this is the first movie that was made without Nakajima as Godzilla. But even on a low budget, crew were. They always turn in good work.
Agreed.
I saw a 5 or 6 minute interview with the guy who played Jet Jaguar.
Oh,
and instead of calling him the guy, I should look his name up.
Tsukitoshi Komada.
Yes.
Wasn't this his only acting credit?
I think so. And he thought he was going to be able. He had training in karate and stuff, and he thought he was going to be able to use that. But he said, not so much. He could use his karate moves in the. You talked about sign language, but I'm thinking it was like universal semaphore or something that. They just automatically Godzilla and Jet Jaguar communicated, but he talked about how hot the suit was.
Sure.
And that whenever there was a break, they would take the helmet off and zip the back down and have something blowing on his back, I think. Because it open it up and cool it off on the sweat and stuff. But,
and I'm sure.
And he said it was really hard to see because he couldn't really see out of what they gave him for eye holes. So.
I guess they said the Megalon costume, the arms were so heavy you could barely lift them up. Megalon and Gigan together, I mean, neither of them. Those two, if you just hid behind a door, you're safe because they're not opening any doors with those hands.
No,
they go through them.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, I'm just kind of
the Megalon suit was one of, if not. The Megalon suit was one of, if not the heaviest Kaiju suits ever made for at the time. And they had to support it by wires so the actor could even stand up in it, let alone move.
Oh, wow.
Which is where he's jumping around. Yeah. The movements were meant to
that weird thing that he would do with his arms. I'm like thinking, if I was doing that when I was trying to jump, I would actually like keep me from jumping. I think throwing his anyway. I loved his arms. I love that whatever it was on his face that opened. The
kind of an early version of the Predator.
Kind of the sideways.
Yeah, and then opening inside. Yeah.
I don't know. And then he started spitting fireballs out of that, which was another one of those things. Like, why didn't you do that before? They just kind of.
And how come it didn't explode when it went back into his mouth? It shoots up at one point and it goes back in when Godzilla's standing over him, and it just
I figured that was the obvious.
Yeah,
I thought it was just going to go pop. Like
that would be that.
Yeah.
Megalon's not a great monster in this movie, I didn't think. And like I said, he never showed up again. But in some of the Godzilla video games, when they finally started making good Godzilla video games, took them for frickin' never. Mm-hmm. But he was a great monster, great one, great playable, to fight against and everything. They really used those hands and everything.
Yeah, well, they turned into a
Gigan too
at some point.
Yeah, it's pretty neat,
crazy stuff.
But they just didn't have the ability to pull off all that with this one, with the film itself.
Out of the original series, I believe it's Ibara, Gigan, and Megalon were the only 3 kaiju that never got killed. So they could,
wow.
Yeah, out of the original series. I mean, well, Gigan ended up dying in what was the TV show Zone Fighter?
Zone Fighter.
I believe. Yeah, I think he met his demise in that. But yeah, he could still be out there.
So Ibara didn't die. I see. The way I remembered, I thought Godzilla pretty much cooked him.
Yeah,
did he cook him?
Ripped both of his hands off and then boiled him.
Yeah,
they don't show the corpse moving, but
they don't show Godzilla like
dead,
cracking him open with a fork and dipping him in butter.
I'm trying to be optimistic.
Of course. Well, let's take a look at the posters here. And this was obviously you kind of go, wait a minute. Oh yeah, it didn't come out till 76 in the US. So we're taking
King
this
Kong
off of King Kong.
Dino De Laurentiis is King Kong, and this is even
another scene that never took place. That's on a poster,
right?
Okay.
Right. It is a pretty good poster, though.
It's great.
Oh, you know what? We forgot Bill.
Oh,
yeah, right. It is now time for taglines with Chad, as played by Bill Mulligan.
Well,
the part of Chad will be played by Bill Mulligan.
Yes. Well, that's big shoes to fill, and I will bring to it Chad's wonderful sense of enthusiasm for this segment. So we've got 6 taglines here. That's pretty good. First one, all new, never before seen, which could literally describe every movie ever released.
Lies.
Yeah.
Not all of it was new. That's right.
No, yeah. That could describe every other movie released except for this one. For the first time in widescreen and color. Is that true? I don't think that's true.
I don't think that's true, no.
No. Maybe they were talking about this particular movie.
Maybe what was the TV thing in the US on before the theatrical release?
That was 77.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, then.
Okay. So far, these have been wildly inaccurate. How about this one? Underground horrors attack. No, they're not underground. It's underwater. Hello. Did you watch this movie?
You mean the taglines for an exploitation film are inaccurate? That never
That's shocking. Maybe something got lost in the translation. How about this one? Giant against giant, the ultimate battle. Okay, I'll give them that.
Against giant. There's,
there are
2 giants against 2 giants.
Introducing
and one growing robot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So this one brings that up. Introducing Robot Man, who's not in this movie. There's no Robot Man in this movie. Do you mean Jet Jaguar? Hello? Wow.
That Robot Man thing comes promotional material, or one of the promotional items. They
comic book
in the theaters in the US was a comic book, which I have a copy of.
Wow. I'm jealous.
Wow.
And in the comic they call him Robot Man. I don't know why they didn't, because in the dub he's still Jaguar, so it's like it was a last minute. But
in that comic, don't they call Gigan like Borodon?
Yeah, I can't remember what it is, but I think he's a different name too. You're right. Yeah.
Oh wow!
Look at that. Oh, that's
is gorgeous.
Very, very cool. Yeah, the artwork is great.
Hey, this is who did the artwork? I like this.
There are several pictures of this on the in the IMDb images.
Nice.
Wow.
Let alone other places.
I just like the layout and the colors. I mean, that's
Same here.
It is. It's very.
I'd love to know who did the art for this. If it's an American artist. One last tagline. Titan against Titan. Giant against giant in the most spectacular battle yet. There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
You get to see flying drop kicks launch, from a
Yeah.
tail launch.
You'll believe Godzilla can fly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, folks,
That was that.
and that's been Taglines with Chad, as played by Bill Mulligan.
Hurry back, Chad, please.
Once again, Chad, we love
We
you,
miss
buddy.
you.
Where are you? All right, so now posters, because I was going to read one of these and went, oh wait, we haven't done taglines yet. Yeah, giant against giant, the ultimate battle, and there's planes flying around. And that was one of the things I thought while I'm watching this is we had to have the requisite stampeding crowd scene, the requisite destruction of a city scene, and the requisite amassing of the military scene.
Mhm.
All from different movies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you could tell because the planes were different depending on the shot.
Yeah. Well,
So anyway, and then one by one, they attack and do no harm whatsoever. And then at some point, one by one, they're melted and blown up. All right. So this may be one of the more colorful posters I've ever seen.
That would look
And
great
it's like
on my wall.
A weird spiral thing there with.
Yeah.
Is this box art for a toy? Because I
think it might be. I see Bandai on the bottom.
Yeah. That's. I was wondering.
Oh, there you
With
go.
that,
So this probably wasn't the actual movie poster.
The is what the Champion Matsuri Festival poster looked like too, though.
Oh.
But I don't see the Matsuri Festival logo on it. It's a Bandai logo on there. I'm not sure what toy that was a box for.
So yeah, what is that on the bottom? Something, is that what you were saying, Dirk? My Kaiju Godzilla?
Is that what that's? I was looking at the Bandai.
Oh, on the right hand,
yeah,
lower side.
Yeah.
MY something Kaiju Godzilla. Well, there you go. See,
it's awfully pretty though.
It is.
And
I like you can see a little bit of the land of Mu.
I like that.
Oh yeah.
I know. If that says My Kaiju, that would be toy photography by John Ruffin.
Oh.
So those are probably they might be like high grade toys, which are little like 3-4 inch kind of hard rubber type figures.
What? I was trying to
because those are definitely not the suits. Now that I'm looking closer, if you look at Jaguar's hands, they're like action figure hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and it's and I'm sure I'm not looking in the right place, but for the places that I normally look, it's strangely a little difficult to find good images from the movie. And then to know that some of them I got some images of the 4 characters and I thought, well, they weren't in that. And then the closer I looked, I started thinking, is this like a model or a set with toy figures on it that are detailed painting? It was hard to tell, at least for me anyway. And then Bill found a German poster.
Yeah.
Where they insist on calling anything big King Kong at that time period.
And that's for all the Godzilla movies. Every German Godzilla poster for whatever movie, it's King Kong.
King Kong Frankenstein.
Yeah, Frankenstein. Yes, that was the other one.
I have the German posters for Godzilla versus Hedorah and King Kong Escapes. And the Godzilla versus Hedorah one is Frankenstein versus the Devil's Monster, and King Kong Escapes is King Kong Frankenstein's son.
Well, they even called the War of the Gargantuas. Don't they call the one guy Frankenstein or some variation?
That's at least halfway back to the movie.
That's
they're supposed to be spawned off the Frankenstein monster. Frankenstein conquers the world.
Yeah,
they got that one right.
So here's some shots of Jet Jaguar.
Yeah.
With the inventor and his friend.
They're shaking
And then
hands. They're just like us.
The little kid was the inventor's brother, right? His little brother.
There's no women in this movie.
I was curious if those two are a gay couple, to be honest. I'm being serious.
Yeah.
When I watched it again earlier in the week, I noticed that when, as we were talking earlier, when Megalon hits the storage container, when the best friend runs up, he goes to the kid and he just kind of shakes him. He's like, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" and slaps him. And then he runs over to the inventor and he's way more caressing of the guy. And like, and it just made me stop and go, I wonder if this is like a subtext. I mean, it's great. Fine by me. I don't mind.
You make a good point. There's no women in this movie that I can.
Other than the dancers. Yeah.
The dancers. Yeah.
Right.
But
and the clear plastic nightgowns.
Well, there's also the two centerfolds that are in the truck driver.
Sure.
Oh,
technically there is some ladies in it, but it never occurred to me until I watched it earlier this week, and I just saw the interaction between the inventor and his best friend, and I was just like, the way they're like, even the opening scene where they're like, would you like some soda? And he's, oh yes, thank you. And it's not that there's any like gay inflection.
Yeah, the way
voices,
they're,
but
you're right.
It struck me.
They're sitting on the
sitting on the grassy knoll. Give the kid some toy to get him out of their hair. Sure.
Well, I remember thinking that because when he bursts in and both the inventor and the kid are laying there, he almost like pauses. It looks like he's going to go for the inventor first, and then he goes to the kid, but he doesn't spend much time with him. You're right.
Yeah, I would love it if they were trying to put some kind of just something so progressive, into a children's film and get it in there. I had never thought of it until this recent watch. So
no, I know I'm sort of lame here, but I kept thinking of that Jet Jaguar costume looked like it had like rings of Play-Doh on it.
It looks very soft and plush.
I spent way too much time playing with Play-Doh with my kids and grandkids, but that's
at no time did I think he was made of metal. I mean, you can almost see the tears in it. It's just
You could certainly see the seam down the back in some shots, but it's kind of part of the fun.
Sure.
Well, and speaking of him, this was maybe one of you guys knows more, but I was reading that this was the result of a contest.
Yes,
to a point.
Yeah, they went. It was one of the first real instances of fan service, as far as I know, in the Godzilla films, in that they held a contest with elementary school kids to design a new sidekick, a robot sidekick for Godzilla. And you have some photos of what the kid came up with, but I know that when he saw the film, supposedly he was inconsolable about how much they had changed.
Not even when he saw the original suit, because his design was all white originally, I guess.
Oh, okay.
It had these wings and stuff, and then when they brought out this lumpy red, blue, yellow, weird-looking thing on the show, like he was like freaked out on live TV, essentially.
Yeah.
Host had to calm him down.
This isn't all white, but this is the closest thing I could find to. And what was it called? Red Alone or Red?
Red
Alone. Yeah, that looks like you should be hanging out with the X from outer space.
With an R, but yeah, it does. And I guess they did build a suit that pretty much looked like that, and had and Toho used it for some promotional stuff. They teamed up in the building of it with a big corporation that ran like department stores and things. So it was, they basically used it to open shopping malls. And by the time came out, okay, well, we better do what we said and really put this thing in a Godzilla movie. Redesigned it, wanting to cash in on its popularity and make him more of a hero character like that. But Teruyoshi Nakano and his effects crew, and they were working on design, decided there's already a ton of sleek-looking, cool Ultraman guys. Let's make it ugly and weird look on purpose. Yes. So
I saw that
goofy, stupid grin. They did not. They did that knowing that it didn't look cool.
Okay.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that where they said, they intentionally made it look ugly, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Japan is so much cooler than us, and we have a shop opening. It's like a senator shows up. They send these kaiju things out there. I'd be there for that. It'd be the opening for anything.
yeah.
Those
Oh,
are gonna
yeah.
show up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A lot of the Godzilla publicity suit that they used for those wound up getting used in the movies later on, just for budget constraints to use them for water suits or whatever. The fake Godzilla and Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla is the publicity suit that, like, we don't want to spend the money to build a whole other.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Godzilla, let's just use this.
didn't they just use the waterhead in this movie for the Mechagodzilla suit? If I'm not mistaken, they just took the head off and then put it on one of those promo suits that you were just talking about. And when he falls apart and Mechagodzilla is revealed.
Yeah, so here's the Gigan.
Gigan version 1 and version 2 here.
One of my favorite kaiju.
Yeah,
Gigan.
yeah,
So awesome.
Because Gigan's kind of silly looking in the original, the 2 Godzilla movies that he shows up in. But everyone liked him because the idea was sound. You know, the idea was cool. A bionic monster, a cyborg creature, it could be anything. Buzzsaw.
Okay.
You know, that made sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense for a organic creature to have a buzzsaw in his stomach. Evolution.
I wanted to
that
see
way,
more of that buzzsaw. I saw those teeth.
Yeah.
rotating, but I never saw it.
You know, but
cut
then
in
he showed up again. The bottom picture is from Godzilla Final Wars, and that's the Gigan we really. He wasn't used to any good effect, but he was cool looking. And I wouldn't mind seeing him brought back for, you know, in the MonsterVerse if they're going to keep on making Americanized Godzilla movies.
That would be
cool.
cool.
The single digit claws look more.
They look like they're going to, you know, cut your head off or harvest wheat, something useful.
All right. So, and then my favorite Megalon, it does look really heavy.
It does look, the bottom picture just looks, can we please yell cut? God, it's just dragging along his little, you know, corkscrew arms dragging on the ground. Just,
well, both of them, but Gigan did the same thing. There was a couple times where they're both standing there and they're kind of going, you know, like, I don't know if they were supposed to be like clanking them together and showing how strong they are, or kind of like wiping their hands off, like we're going to wipe them.
There's not much else you can do with those hands.
I took it as sign language, as monster speak. The way they one would do it, and then the other one would do it. To me, it was just like, let's go kick their ass. Right. Yeah, let's.
Okay.
That's still better. Was it Godzilla on Monster Island where we actually heard them talk?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, Anguillas. What do you want?
Okay. Yeah, that was terrible. Terrible. Painful.
Agreed.
And there's the whatever that is, Ray Spark Tesla coil thing coming out of the
Ghidorah.
Megalon.
Yeah.
And then this version of Godzilla,
look at that face. You just want to pinch his little cheeks.
Yeah. You could pet him.
He actually looks like a sphinx I once had. That, you know, I had a black sphinx, and that was kind of the expression you got. It's like,
I did not
adorable in its homeliness.
I did not see the puppy until you said that, Bill. Now I'm looking and I'm seeing the curve of the mouth or something. But anyway,
I mean, I gotta say, it's one of my favorite Godzilla designs. I prefer almost the more feline one from some of the more modern ones, like Godzilla versus Mothra, the later
Violante one.
Yeah. There's some great ones. It's definitely the ugliest. The
new big movies, he has such a tiny head, it seems like.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that. They're all better than Son of Godzilla, which is the ugliest costume. I think they did that to make Son of Godzilla look cuter in comparison. Now look at this. Now check this out. At the top, he's got a tower in his mouth. And I didn't realize this until I was reading the workflow. There's a number of behind the scenes pictures where he's got this thing in his mouth, like a electric tower or whatever, telephone pole. And then he's holding a tree, and it was meant to look like a samurai. because it was like a takeoff of some popular samurai thing that was big at the time.
Yeah.
I wish they'd gone with that.
Yeah, I wish he'd
Suppose they're
done
gonna
more
be
with the
goofy.
tree. All he does is jab him with it, but
Yeah.
it literally ends up looking like it's a sharpened stick that he could have used that for some good stuff.
Yeah.
Shin Takagi, the guy who's in the Godzilla suit, they told him to use samurai movies as inspiration for his movements too. And I don't know where that transition, but
Yeah.
no, I've never seen a samurai fly through somebody in the stomach before. So
Yeah.
All right, and here's as Bill calls him, the annoying little kid.
I feel bad for that too, because it's not his fault. Seriously, take that horrible dubbing away, and he's fine. Okay, maybe the shorts are a little too short, but
I'm not even sure. I have the Criterion thing, and I'm not sure if I can watch it in just English.
yeah,
Some of them may have.
the dub is on the Criterion one.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Don't feel obligated to have to, because it's pretty terrible. But I just want to say, this kid. So he was a little kid here. He was a little kid in Godzilla versus Smog Monster, which in its own way is just as bad as this one. But I love Godzilla versus the Smog Monster.
Love
I
it.
saw it in the theater as a kid, and it just So there you go. There, yes, I'll back you up. Okay, but for everyone who's ever said, "Oh, I hate that kid. I hate the actor. I wish the kidnappers had killed him," all pretty harsh assessments. That bottom picture, this kid was in a Kurosawa movie. He was directed by Akira Kurosawa, arguably one of the top 5 directors of all time. I mean,
Yeah,
I
that's
put him in the top 3. I mean,
that's Dotus Kaden is the name of
Yes.
the movie. Dotus Kaden.
Okay.
and it didn't do well, and it's sad that it didn't do well. But Kurosawa was not appreciated at the time. But man, okay, if you're in a Kurosawa movie, you can ride on that for the rest of your life. You know, just I'll buy a drink for anyone who tells me they were in a Kurosawa movie and can back it up.
So this is the kid is Hiroyuki
Kawase.
Kawase.
Yeah. He's at E-Fest in 2022.
Oh wow!
And so I got a picture with him that German header post. I invited him to sign it. And his interview panel was funny because he retired from acting when he was 10. He's been an airline pilot for Japan Airlines for like 20 some years now. He just left that part of his life behind.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ed Godziszewski was the one interviewing him. He was the co-writer of Ishiro Honda's biography. He won lots of books, and he's big name in the field of Godzilla study, I get whatever you want to call it. And so he was doing the interview panel, and he'd written all these great in-depth questions asking Kawase about all these different things, and his answer was just perpetually, I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And the increasingly frustrated look on Ed's face.
Yeah.
As all of these great questions put work in.
He thought he was given a
Just like,
deposition
I don't
in a Congress investigation.
The thing he mainly remembered was every time this movie was shot in the winter. I think Hero was too. He did an episode of Ultraman Taro that was shot in the winter.
Yeah.
So a lot of the movies, like his main memory was it was cold. I didn't like it. Well, didn't your friends think it was cool that you were in a Godzilla movie and that you did all this stuff? And he's like, no. Did you like it? I just wanted to go back to school with my friends. Like he just did not care at all.
Well, that's true. I mean, I don't remember what I was doing when I was 10 years old. I don't know. I was upstate New York. I was in the woods looking for salamanders. I mean, and of course, when you're 10 years old, you don't realize that this is unusual. This has been your whole life. This is, as far as you know, this is reality. So why would you be memorizing things like, I got to remember this for later? No, you figure it's just, this is the way it's going to be forever. Retired at 10.
Wow.
All right.
But you know what? He became a pilot, and that's better than a lot of child actors, who tried to stick with it. So.
I would guess he probably has made far more money as a pilot than he did as as an actor.
So here is Robert Dunham as the Emperor of Seatopia.
Yeah, well, there's 2 pictures of Robert Dunham, and then there's a picture from Green Slime that I thought was him, but I was quickly corrected. I was not even close. But if you look carefully in the background, if you really look carefully, it's a little blurry, but in the background there, that's definitely him.
Yep.
Is he the guy that gets locked inside the thing? And
In Green Slime,
yeah,
I just
One of
know
them
him.
gets-
He's Captain Martin is all I could find. I don't remember which character that was.
Yeah, I need maybe I'll rewatch that tonight after we get. I've been
That's a
thinking
great
just
movie.
That is a great
one again.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And a great theme song.
Yeah.
I mean,
I,
boy, Mystery Science Theater had fun with this guy because as soon as he shows up and it's like, he's got a toga and it looks like he's wearing a sweater because he's just a hairy guy.
And he's got a little Megalon head on his tiara too. So that's even cooler.
oh wow,
Yeah.
I'm surprised no one has made a prop replica of that to sell, like X Plus or some company, because that in the world of Godzilla merchandise, you can buy anything, and
Yeah.
that's like the one thing that no one has, to my knowledge anyway, has made.
I'm surprised I've never
Yeah.
seen a cosplayer at Dragon Con or anything doing this. Because again, okay, maybe 1 out of 100 people would get it, but those people, and by that I mean me, would fall at his feet and just, it's like, yes, you got it. There he is.
there it is.
You got to have the fur though.
Oh, you got
Yeah.
It's the helmet.
I'll get my friend
right.
Paul to cosplay as him. He's got the fur.
So Robert Dunham, let's see. He spoke. He was, one of the only Caucasian actors that was in a lot of these films that spoke fluent Japanese.
Yeah.
He was a race car driver, and then what else do I got? That he did all of his stunts on the motorcycle except for the paint dump in this movie, and that he was hired 2 to 3 days before the shooting began, and he only worked a total of 5 days on the film.
Oh,
so.
Yeah, I thought I saw this was shot in like 2 weeks or something. And
3 weeks. I believe the
3
whole
weeks?
film was in 3 weeks. Yeah.
And they only spent a week making the Godzilla suit. I don't know how that compares to other ones, if that's true.
I had heard that this was the quickest build for a Godzilla suit, but I don't know if is it an actual build or is it just pulling pieces off of other ones, or did they
No,
actually
this was
run
a
it?
whole new suit.
It was okay.
Because this was the first they had to rebuild a new one, because the one previously they'd been using since 1968. They kept rebuilding it, and the last time they used it in Godzilla versus Gigan, you can see pieces of the suit falling off.
Yeah,
in the,
that's true.
and so yeah, this is a brand new suit. But even so, it was kind of like it was very quickly made and very cheap, and you can see pieces of this one falling off too, even though they made it fresh. This movie.
Yeah.
Well, I thought I saw too that one of the things about this was because they made it so fast that the eyes didn't move.
Mm-hmm.
The eyes move in the other versions.
Yeah, they don't move
I
in
don't
this
know.
one for sure. Didn't hurt it.
No.
Yeah, what was he in? King Kong versus Godzilla, Mothra versus Godzilla.
Dogora, and then the original Mothra.
Anyway, so King of Seatopia, and then we have lots of fight scenes.
Yay!
Yay.
And
And
here's
there we see.
Megalon and Gigan standing over
Jet Jaguar.
Yeah. Thinking they taking care of business, and then finally Godzilla shows up. Like a cameo in his own movie.
Yeah.
He
Kind
was
of
in,
like
I
the-
think he was it like the last half hour? Anybody notice the time? I was going to write it down, but I didn't.
I mean, once he shows up, it's a nonstop monster fight fest, which is
It
what
is.
we came
It
for.
is.
So that's good.
I
Well,
think the shot isn't the shot where he throws Megalon into the building. Isn't that from Godzilla versus, or when he throws Gigan into the building? Isn't that also a shot from
Gigan.
Godzilla versus Gigan?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
Megalon's partially the head anyway, and that big horn thing was based on the Uchi, a Japanese beetle, which is kind of a cultural thing. The kids going to the Matsuri festival would, because a popular activity among Japanese children is catching these things and breeding them to sell to department stores, to pet stores. You could get $5 or $10
Yeah.
for them.
Wow.
And then the
All right,
flying on
that-
the tail is amazing.
Flying on the tail, and that's become so iconic. I mean, if you're a fan, as I am, of Mystery Science Theater 3000, that was always one of the things they would show in the opening credits. You know, it's just, yeah, it's goofy, but you gotta cheer. I mean, I was never bothered by the occasional goofy thing that Godzilla did when he did the little dance in Monster Zero, and he's jumping up in the air and doing. All right, that was cute. That was fun. And I'm all right with that. It's just when it becomes the whole movie.
Don't Godzilla and Jet Jaguar shake hands at the end?
Yes, they do.
And he turns around and walks away.
Because that's what you do, right?
It was awesome when he was trucking in, though, and I guess it was supposed to be Godzilla running when he was coming originally. I don't know. I dug stuff like that. I think there's a time where I thought it would have been cheesy, but I really enjoyed it.
I always loved the idea of Monster Island. I mean, when I was a kid, man, that'd be the place I'd want to go to. Monster Island, where the monsters just live there peacefully, and they're supposed to be kind of trapped there, but they seem to leave whenever they feel like it. So
all right, and
and there you go. So now
is
that top one is not from the actual This was a skit that they did. Baba Wawa interviewing Godzilla, and John Belushi must have been a big fan because he's in the Godzilla suit and he did the hosting of Godzilla versus Megalon, prime time, 9:00. Chopped that movie down to the bare minimum. So basically, I think if I recall the movie right, it kind of opens with Jet Jaguar, and he goes to Monster Island, he brings back, and then we do the fight. I mean, there's not a whole lot of. They cut everything out of this. It's 45 minutes long. There's not much there. And then they would cut to Belushi, and he did some skits. I remember one where he was like pretending to eat the film canisters or something. And I seem to remember something where they threw like a big foam rubber boulder at him and he got knocked over. You never actually saw Belushi. It was his voice. And unfortunately, none of this footage exists. Nobody has been able to find even shots from it. If I'd only known, I would have invented the VHS, and I would have. I would have filmed it with my Super 8 camera if I'd known it was going to disappear.
So I want to ask you guys about the music because I felt like the music was uninspired for a Godzilla movie. Anybody?
By Chirinabe, who only did this and Hedorah, the only two Godzilla movies.
Okay.
Kind of weird psychedelic jazz stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it fits this goofy ass movie, but it definitely didn't scream action in the way.
Well, it didn't stick out. I mean, it wasn't like I went, "Oh my God, what's that obnoxious music?" But when I stopped to listen to it, I felt like it didn't have the force behind it.
Who's the? I'm drawing a blank. Thank you. I mean, I was so glad to see him again in like Terror of Mechagodzilla, which is actually one of my favorite ones. Yeah, it's so good to have him back.
Although the other main composer, Masaru Sato, I really love his stuff too. I mean, especially Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. Not only is that one of my favorite Godzilla movies of all time, I think Mechagodzilla is the only monster who has a cooler theme song than Godzilla.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, Manabe's stuff is, I don't know, it's an acquired taste, I guess.
Well, I don't know. Do we, anything you guys wanted to say that has been left unsaid?
There was that thing you just put up for the Channel 4. It had a pretty cool tagline on it that we didn't. Two mighty monsters with a difference of opinion thrash things out.
That is pretty good.
It stuck out to me, so I had to bring it up.
They're thrashing.
I guess I just wanted to say a little bit about Jun Fukuda, the director, who
sure.
He makes, or made, I should say, he's passed now, but John Carpenter look positively cheerful by comparison. You know how a notorious curmudgeon Carpenter is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fukuda, anytime someone would want to interview him, why do you want to talk about my movies? They all suck.
Wow.
There never should have been a sequel to Godzilla in the first place,
yeah.
Especially not the ones I made. And he didn't just hate his Godzilla movies; he hated all of them. He made a lot of crime movies and some spy movies, including a couple called Iron Finger and Golden Eyes, which are sort of James Bond spoofs with Kira Takarada. They're so good, and I love a lot of Fukuda's movies. Like Son of Godzilla and Godzilla versus the Sea Monster and Mechagodzilla. Three of my
Decent,
favorite
yeah.
from the era. They're all fantastic.
See, I don't know these guys by name as well as you guys, but Ibara, Horror of the Deep,
Yeah.
Destroy All Monsters, both the Mechagodzilla movies, and both the Godzilla versus Gigan and Godzilla versus Megalon.
Well, Destroy All Monsters, wasn't that Honda?
Yeah, that was still Honda.
Yeah. He
Well,
was I think he was
they must have used it says earlier film clips, so
That's right.
must have been stock footage
There
or
you go.
something.
There you go.
And so you're saying that the Belushi thing, that being on primetime TV, is the only primetime TV premiere of a Godzilla movie, and Cinema Shares, the company that put out in the theater over here, when they in '76, that that those cool posters, and we were talking about the comic book. When they had a critic screening, they treated it as a kiddie matinee and kind of made it a party so that all the critics would sort of take it in the spirit it was intended. And so it got really good reviews because all the critics were just, basically taken back to their childhood when they were given the chance screening.
I was astonished when I read some of the critical reviews from people like Vincent Canby, who,
Oh, yeah.
because I grew up in New York. So Vincent Canby, I would of course read the New York Times, and this was not a guy we are not eye to eye on our love for genre. So seeing him and these others talk about how much they like this of all Godzilla movies just shocked me. But yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. They were taking it as a kid's movie, and as a kid's movie, it works perfectly fine. And listen, Jerry Chandler, I am kidding. I love the movie. It is not a classic, but it is a classic. They're all classics, except for, like you mentioned. You mentioned Godzilla versus Megaguirus. Yeah, that's one that I'm not crazy about because it's not special in any particular way. So it doesn't really reward repeated viewing. But this is one you could have on in the background and just go with the flow and enjoy it. It's not it's far from my favorite kind of Godzilla movie. But I think what's great about the series. I mean, how many films are we talking about now? If you add them all up,
36.
That's
36
insane.
or 37, whatever
so
the new
insane
one minus
when
will be. Yeah.
I mean, he puts most of these others to shame. James Bond isn't a patch on the rear end of Godzilla.
No, he holds
Well,
Godzilla
I
holds
don't
the
know.
Guinness World's Record for most films. James Bond is second. Of
What about
of
El
single
Santo?
series.
I think there's like 50 some El Santo movies.
Yeah.
That I don't know.
I guess that's sort of fair.
And Machiste might have him too.
Which one?
Machiste, the Italian. That most of them got turned into Hercules movies over here.
Right,
but
right.
they've been Machiste movies since the
okay.
silent era. So
Well, there's like how many? 25 Zatoichi, the blind sword.
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. That's a great one.
All righty. Well, let's. I think that's it for Godzilla versus Megalon. I always feel like I should be saying Godzilla when I'm with you guys versus Megalon. But
it's okay because Toho came up with the name Godzilla. A lot of people think that Godzilla is just an American trying to pronounce the name, but in all the promotional materials going back to the original movie, Godzilla was always the English name, the official English name. Says Toho. So
all right then.
So it's okay to say Godzilla.
Yeah, don't show off to your friends like, oh, I'm going to use the actual original Japanese pronunciation. It's like, yeah, nobody likes you.
So we do have some feedback.
Oh.
If we want to tackle that here. And we usually go round robin. You guys feel like reading some feedback? I don't know if you're on the thing that you can see it or not.
I can
pull it up.
Yeah.
It's towards the bottom of the workflow under exit feedback.
There is one more thing about Godzilla that I wanted to bring up. And this is, I guess, for the Batman connection. Bryan, do you know about the film Batman vs. Godzilla?
Yep.
Yeah. Apparently there's a 22-page treatment that Shinichi Sekizawa he wrote. I guess it's never come out, but they were going to have Adam West and Burt Ward actually go to Japan and face off against I guess not face off against Godzilla, but I believe it was someone else that was trying to bring Godzilla in, or I'm not sure. But I just knew that there was a
Yeah, I've
Godzilla
never read the
Batman.
treatment, so I don't know exactly what the story was supposed to have been. But yeah, that is one of the more infamous lost
Absolutely
or
bizarre.
unmade.
Well, they could have had
Godzilla
Godzilla make
movies.
one of those climbing up the building window cameras too.
Yeah, sure.
And definitely, Batman would have used anti-Godzilla spray to get
Oh,
yes.
send it back into the ocean.
He would have.
And
All
Robin
right.
probably would have said something like "Holy halitosis, Batman!" when-
Ah,
All right, so we have a
Another loss.
comment on episode 128, Sisters. The Bryan
Wow, it's going way back.
film. Yeah, it is. Bill, you want to take that one?
This is from Guy Grip 9634 about Sisters. That movie scared the hell out of me. Watch the news scene of twins being photographed in the nut house, and a giant goes walking by. He has a hunchback. It is the Jewish giant Eddie Carmel, the monster in Brain That Wouldn't Die. Eddie passed away just after filming. All were New York residents. I did not know that, and I'm a big fan of the Brain That Wouldn't Die. So yeah, I'm gonna have to check out.
Yeah, I got to go back and check that out.
Yeah, that's
appreciate
good catch, sir. Thank you.
it. Guy Grip is a fairly new commenter, and seems to be going back and getting old ones and making comments
Good
about
for
it.
him.
It's good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And now our favorite, episode 156, a movie called Girly, or in England it was Mumsy, Nanny, Sonny, and Girly, that Chad and Daphne and I did, and Chad gave Daphne unending razzing about that movie. And this is the second one we've had in a couple weeks complimenting it. So, Bryan, can you take that?
Yeah, this is one I've been curious to watch since you guys talk about it so much on here. So I absolutely love this movie, but I have very British sensibilities. It's my only family heritage besides American. It's an extremely perverse, dark comedy satire, along with still being 70s UK horror. It's not supposed to be a seriously scary horror film. This was also well before the likes of The Exorcist, Chainsaw Massacre, Black Christmas et al. Changed horror forever. I'm not surprised that a third of you didn't enjoy or understand it. I was introduced to it by an amazing film analysis book called House of Psychotic Women from 2012. A great double feature with this is Goodbye Gemini, also 1970, Incest Implying, and from the same distributor. It's also one of several films made at Oakley Court Manor, along with the rock horror picture show Symptoms, Vampires, and The Night Digger. I do love vampires.
What is this one he mentions? Goodbye,
The
Gemini.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing the ads for that, but the Night Digger, that's a new one to me.
yeah.
So, Mumsy, Nanny, Sonny, and Girly was one Joseph Perry used to bring up. And at the time, we couldn't find it anywhere. And then Doc and Bill couldn't be on 70s, and Daphne came on, and we told her to go ahead and pick one, and this is what she picked. So, yeah, it's not a horror movie, but it's interesting. I found it interesting. I believe Chad is the one that he says, I'm not surprised a third of you didn't enjoy it or understand.
Yeah.
And that was from Benny Shambles. Yeah, I always wonder if these are their real names or not.
They're Christian names, Benny. Yeah, who knows?
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
it, Benny. Appreciate it. And then I'll do this one. This is from on 185, Werewolf and the Yeti, Paul Naschy film. Werewolf
Win. Oh, Wolf Win.
I'm trying to read the name. Werewolf Hamad. Yeah, Wolf Win.
Okay.
That's
Wolf
a great
Win.
flick. Anything
It
with Paul
is.
Naschy is a good time.
Absolutely.
It is. And then I'll take this one too because there's not much to it. Dallas Nostromo, who we do know that is his real name.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's from the Boston Nostromos. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a regular listener and commenter on Kingdom of the Spiders. He linked a Shatner interview about Kingdom of the Spiders. It's like 16 minutes, and I would recommend that to people. It's pretty interesting. If you just Google Kingdom of the Spiders interview with Shatner. And one of the things he said was about the sequel that was never made. He said the script that he was shown had started with him being totally crazy and in an insane asylum and seeing spiders everywhere. Was how it started. I thought, well, that sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway. All right. Also, Kingdom of the Spiders. Go ahead.
I was going to say anything with Shatner is entertaining for me.
Oh,
yeah.
Anything.
Here's another one, Dirk, from Wealth Actually with Fraser Rice.
Easy for you to say. The movie that replaced quicksand as my prime phobia. This is about Kingdom of the Spiders.
Yes, sorry.
I saw this at age 7, and that was about it for me and tarantulas. No amount of visits to the spider building at the Bronx Zoo was going to fix that. Shatner is in fine form, and the set pieces in the original second-level tarantula deaths are terrific. The silent impending doom of thousands of tarantulas creates its own menacing personality. It's almost like a zombie movie, only with tactile awfulness to ramp up the horror. 40 years later, I can finally appreciate it. Thanks for bringing the enthusiasm to this terrific niche movie. Of note, the girl on the swing over the river of spiders is permanently etched into my hard wiring, and the 70s apocalyptic ending is a classic. A+. Thanks for the show, Grue Crew. P.S. I took a date to arachnophobia during high school. It was her suggestion. I had an infraction in the first scene and had to be carried out. I guess I wasn't boyfriend material.
Oof. Yeah, that's hard to recover from.
I had an infraction.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was reading that right. I had
that's what he said.
A reaction, maybe. I had
maybe
infarction.
Yeah, I was thinking it was infarction that he had a full-on heart attack in the theater.
Oh wow!
Or infraction. Maybe he made a move he shouldn't have made.
And they had to carry him out.
I don't know.
Because she clocked him, or
I don't know.
Popcorn went up everywhere.
There was no second date at all. Yeah.
We're just making up stories about your past life there.
That's right, man.
Fraser Rice. All right. And, good. We're around to Bill again. Just in time for Jerry Chandler on Kingdom of the Spiders.
Here we go. Jerry Chandler says, I love Kingdom of the Spiders. The 70s and 80s gave us a swarm of movies based on killer insects, killer fish, killer mammals, killer serpents, and killer reptiles. And Kingdom of the Spiders, without resorting to concepts like enlarging creatures to insane sizes, has managed to stay higher on many people's watch list than most of them. It's never going to be a really scary horror movie unless one is really scared of spiders, and will never be ranked in any major top 10 horror list, but it's a solid film. It has a good cast, a good concept, some silly moments, some creepy moments, and that wonderful horror tradition from that era of sending the viewer away with a message that you can't win against nature, especially nature gone mad and seeking horrifying revenge on mankind. And I agree with your comments about Shatner and horror. If Star Trek the Motion Picture and Trek fandom hadn't come along when it did, he could have had a great career in horror and not just as Michael's face. He really seemed good in it, especially as the almost every man facing danger. Would have been interesting to see where that career path could have gone. That's an interesting point I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, we did talk about it. He seemed like he thrived in horror movies.
Have you guys seen Incubus?
Yeah.
The one that's fallen Esperanto. That's a really good one too.
Yeah, we just did that one.
I must be behind in my listening. Sorry.
A couple months.
Well, wait. You guys did Incubus, the Esperanto movie?
No, we did.
No, they did it.
That was a sixth movie.
We did that.
We did that. Never mind.
Yeah.
We did
the John
Cassavetes.
John Cassavetes movie. Incubus. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to check that out.
No, it's weird.
Well, just quickly though, another story that Shatner told was how, even though this was a low budget, he said to him, yeah, the blockbusters, you get a lot of money for them, but it's really boring because they do everything over and over and over. They take forever for the shot setups. Everything's got to be just right. Whereas in these movies, you just go do it. And he had this idea. He said most of the time those are live spiders on him when he's doing that scene crawling up the steps. And he also learned that they weren't really poisonous. It was more like a very painful bee sting, when they bit you. And
I don't like bee stings either. You know that.
Yeah, I don't
people
either.
say,
But he put
oh no, it doesn't.
when he comes staggering up the stairs and down behind the counter, he suggested that they take some spirit gum or something and stick one of the spiders to his face, and then make it. Hopefully, it would fall off. When he hit the ground, and you'd see that where that bite was. So they said we finally did it. We did it perfectly, and then the spider runs off alive, and the camera goes to pan on it, and there's the guy doing the still photography for the movie is in the shot.
Oops.
But anyway, that was.
Can I just point out one thing? I know high quality horseshit when I hear it. I can see the fangs of a tarantula. I cannot see the bee stinger on a bumblebee unless you give me a microscope.
He said it was more painful.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Good God.
He also claimed not many. They tried to hurt as few of them as they could.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yeah, they
except
look
for the
real
ones
careful.
they stomped on, and
rolled over. They stop a couple and drive, but I don't know. I have to go back and look and see if they're moving or not. But, all right, last one we have is on episode 198, Shivers. And Bryan, could you take this one from Gregory Crosby?
Indeed. Chad, your impersonation of my speaking voice is 100% correct. That is exactly what I sound like. Or is it? I guess y'all will find out if you ever have me on to explain the Gothic. And okay, Shivers remains... Oh.
Yeah, just a minute. So Gregory Crosby is a poet. He's got several books of poetry published, and he teaches for SUNY, I think. State University of New York. But one time we were arguing about the definition of Gothic, and he said he'd be glad to come on and educate us about it. We haven't contacted yet, but we should. All right, so that's where that comes from.
And Shivers remains one of the most disturbing horror films I've ever seen, in part because I saw it at the very impressionable age of 14. I think of the early Cronenbergs, this holds up best, better than Rabid for complex reasons I won't bore you with in this comment. However, that I laugh out loud when the hero punches the woman in the face before the parasite is able to leap from her mouth. Indelible. I would agree with that. I think Shivers is one of my favorite. I mean, it's not my favorite, but they're in Cronenberg stuff, and I do like it better
not
than
the
Rabid.
best made, but it's boy, does it got some
one of the
ideas,
grimiest one.
Yeah. Grimy.
All right, well, we appreciate the comments, everybody. Keep them coming. Leave comments on the YouTube channel, or you can leave comments on our Facebook group or on the website, or send them to feedback@gruesomemagazine.com. Those all get to us. I just remembered I have some emails stashed I didn't check out, so there may be some more in there I missed, so we'll get them next time. So next episode 200, Bill.
Oh, we got to do
congratulations.
something special.
We're going to do The Exorcist.
God Monster of Indian. Oh, yes. No, The Exorcist.
2. We got another.
I mean, God Monster of Indian Flats is special for a given definition of special.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have done that. We did do that.
We did do that, but we haven't done The Exorcist. I'm sure people have been wondering.
No, and for a long time, when Santos started this with Doc, he would not do it.
Yeah.
He saw it once. I'm never seeing it again. There's something wrong with that movie. So we kind of save up. We do all the other stuff, and then we save up the big ones for the big ones.
And boy, you got to say 50 years. That movie's 50 years old. Now, I watched it because we did a Dragon Con panel on it this year. And I watched it. My wife saw it for the first time.
Oh, wow.
She hadn't seen it before. Yeah. And I was like, now listen, this is pretty rough. And she's like, it's 50 years old. And then we're watching it, and it wasn't too far into. She's like, oh, yeah. Now I see what you were talking about. Yeah. Even 50 years, it packs a punch.
I was living in the dorms at Iowa State, and one of the guys on my dorm floor came back and said, well, that's the third time, and I still didn't make it all the way through.
Wow.
So anyway, it had a big impact then. So,
oh yeah.
We're fired up, and there's so many things going on now. I mean, actually, I'm going to go see The Exorcist in the theaters tomorrow as we're recording this. So
The
October
original?
1st. Yeah, the original one is doing Fathom events October 1st and 4th. So at least you guys will hear this before then, and maybe some of our Patreon folks. Go to Fathom events and look that up. But I don't think I saw it in the theater, even though I was right at that time period. But I think I skipped it, and so I'm excited about that. And then the new one comes out August 6th or October 6th. I'm sorry, and that's looking. It looks like I want to see it anyway. You never know.
Yeah.
Is the one you're going to go see, is that has the spider walk put back into it and all, or is it the original theatrical of?
That's a good question, and I assume it's put back. I don't know if it's like director's cut or not. Talk amongst yourself for a second.
The director's cut was the one that had the spider walk in it, right?
Right,
that
right.
Wasn't like, okay.
Well, that came back later, and I don't even know when I don't know the exact history of when they took it out unless I go back. And there's the documentary on Shudder about William Friedkin does
Leap
about
of Faith,
making
I believe it's called.
Yes. Exorcist 50th anniversary. In remembrance of William Friedkin. And I don't see anything about
What version?
Yeah. I don't see a length on this either. Well, I'll be ticked if it isn't in there, but I'm assuming it is. At this point in time, I think they're going to do everything.
Cool. Congratulations on getting to number 200, too, for the episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe.
More fun than I should be allowed to have. That's
Not at all. You deserve all the fun.
So,
Got
guys,
me through COVID. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Bryan, where are your books available?
On Amazon. Yep.
On Amazon.
Putting
So
the Ground
Bryan
to Sleep.
Clark.
And yep, I have an author page on there that they're all on. Putting the Ground to Sleep, Beast from Haunted Cave. You can find, there's a band called Coagulate. That's the one I did voiceover for. They're on Bandcamp. And the new one is called Adversion. And that EP should be out this October.
Cool.
All righty. And Bill, your book is available at Amazon.
Also on Amazon. While you're going to pick up his books, pick up mine too. Get a whole bunch of books.
E-reader, and his is about demons and lawyers, if I remember.
Demons and lawyers,
which is kind of a
who wins, who loses, who cares. We all win when those two go after each other.
Rhetoric. And Dirk, you're getting ready to head overseas. Can you talk about that at all? Or
I can't really talk too much about it. I'm going to head to Prague next week to work on the TV series Interview with a Vampire. And that's for KMB Effects. And I'm playing a character in it. That's about all I can say.
All righty.
That's awesome.
Watch.
Congratulations.
Watch.
Please,
you guys, I appreciate it so much. This was like...
Yes, thank you so much for filling in.
Yeah.
I think Dirk signed up Wednesday night. I asked Bryan on Thursday when Doc, who scheduled this for Saturday night on Thursday, went, my wife just reminded me I'm doing something tonight.
Yep, this episode of Snake Bit.
I'm always down to talk kaiju. I'm on to talk anything horror too.
Well, I was hoping so.
I'm like Bryan, same thing. Kaiju and horror, anytime.
Love you guys, and if I don't talk to you before then, Dirk, maybe we can get together again when I get out to California.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Absolutely.
You guys have a great one, and say good night, everybody.
Peace.
Good night.
Good night.